Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 3 of Advent of Code in Kotlin. We are live once again, 12 hours after the challenge was originally open. Very excited to have all of you here. If you are tuning in, please give us a brief hello in the chat. That would be lovely. You might be tuning in to us on YouTube, but also be tuning in to us on Twitch. Regardless, you are welcome here. What a day. I already see the first couple of comments here. How does everyone feel about today's challenge? How did it go for everybody? I think we're already seeing a couple of folks here complaining about what the situation may have been. We'll talk about it more later, but maybe there's a little bit of a trick to how you are supposed to treat new lines in the inputs. I know that's an easy mistake to make, and one that gets quite sneaky. And certainly, Max, you are not alone. We got other folks have the same problem. You get a little bit of a hint here as well from Johnny already, because I remember why I don't like Regex. So that might be interesting. We'll see what's coming up today. But first of all, once again, hello everybody. If you're stuck on part 2, maybe the solutions that we'll see on stream today will be inspiring to you. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you folks are having fun with the challenges and are overall having a good time. I am once again, for no particular reason, drinking from a New York mug. This time from the New York Transit Museum. Very nice mug, both from the design perspective, but also because it is very big. I think the regular teacups are just too small. Speaking of New York again, this is a great way to start our little advertisement segment that we typically do here before we dive into the actual solution. Since, we want to give people a little bit of time to arrive. If you haven't checked it out yet and you're looking for something to do after we finish the stream today, there's a Talking Kotlin episode out that we recorded at DroidCon New York together with Russell Wolf, which talks about a whole lot of multi-platform things. If you've never engaged with any of Russell's content before, he maintains multi-platform settings, and he has a lot of very cool insights into the Kotlin multi-platform ecosphere. And look at that, Marton also has a new video out about how we made UUID's Kotlin multi-platform and what that looks like. So make sure you check that out as well. And while you're here, you might as well just switch to the live tab and hit the notify me button for the remainder of the streams that will be coming up, because there's at least one of them right here. It has a slightly different time than the other ones, so you want to make sure you don't miss that one. It's gonna be a good one. Little birdie told me that this one, maybe if it's visualizable, we might see some cool visualizations in there. So you really don't want to miss this one. Jelly mentions that they were able to use some skills that were learned in on day 1 using regular expressions, which is awesome. And apparently, there's even a way to solve today's challenge in without any regular expressions. I can't wait to discuss this one, and of course to go into the dramatic reading portion of this. But of course, it is important that if you are tuning in, that you make sure you take part in everything that the Advent of Code 2024 in Kotlin campaign has to offer. In short, we have leaderboards that you can join. Please only join one of them, but there are leaderboards that you can join, and you can compete for a high rank. But even if you don't want to compete for a high rank, we will draw some winners from those leaderboards. And they will also get some exclusive Advent of Code 2024 in Kotlin merchandise, some cool swag to remember this awesome campaign by. If you're not feeling like you want to compete, additionally, you can also just win by adding the AOC 2024 in Kotlin tag or the topic to your GitHub repository. There's a couple of instructions in the official blog post that help you here. So I'm going to drop that one in here. And in that case, as long as you have it tagged and we have a way of contacting you, like an email address or your social handles on your GitHub profile, we will reach out to you if you are one of the lucky winners. And once again, let me tell you, there is no other way to get this specific Advent of Code in Kotlin swag. And of course, in general, I just encourage you to try out new things. Maybe, you know, if you've tuned into one of our previous live streams together with the language evolution team that just happened a couple days ago, you may have learned of some new features that you might want to try that are under a feature flag. What better place to try it than in Advent of Code? No risk, full reward. And of course, you know, you get to take all that knowledge with you as well. If you're not sure where to start, or if you're just excited about trying out a new build system, we also have the Advent of Code Kotlin template, which provides you a nice little entry point that has a bunch of things already pre-configured so you can get started right away. And there's actually two of them. There's the regular old Gradle one, which just has the classic structure. And we also have one that is based on Amper, the build system that we're working on inside JetBrains, which is quite nice because, I mean, just look at that build file. Even without me zooming in, it's like 4 lines. That's quite neat. All right. I hope that everyone managed to get here in time. And of course, I'm very excited about everyone who already decided to pre-discuss some things. We'll see if some of the points that were made in the chat, the little allusions to things, whether those will actually come to be when we solve Advent of Code 2024 Day 3. So for that, I am really, really excited to introduce my guest today, Nicole. Hey, Nicole. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me okay and are ready for some adventing here.
You sound great, and I have to say, I'm very excited. Whenever you're out there creating content or, you know, giving talks, especially, there's a lot of compose things happening. Usually it's also involves a lot of like animations and stuff, which I always find just so very delightful because I don't know what would show the power of what you can do in Kotlin together with compose and so on better than some things that like move around and stuff. So yeah, it's awesome to have you.
Thank you. I do like making things move, and that's something that everyone should do, and that's part of my message. Like, nobody has an excuse of not adding animations because they're really easy now these days.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. My first question to you is: do you have any history with Advent of Code? Have you already done the previous days? Maybe even tuned in?
Yeah, I mean, there are just 2 days before this one. I did start at Advent of Code like yesterday, but I have the 3 days on, so there's something, there's progress. I don't think I ever finished any of them, but I did like some sporadic like here and there. And that's what I have around. Yeah, they're fun. I really like them.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of the same. As far as I know, I mean, I think I can click my. Is it the events button? This one. Yeah, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit I haven't done all of them in any of the years. But what's more importantly is, as you can see, is I have supported Advent of Code since 2020 by purchasing an Advent of Code ++ subscription. if you haven't done that yet and you just want some bragging points out there, everybody, make sure you support Advent of Code. Maybe not the 2022, the 2020 version, but like the actual year, so that it shows up.
There you go. I didn't even know that was an option. There you go.
Yeah, look at that. And then the next option, of course, is getting that sponsor tag. that one's slightly more difficult. But as you can see, we do actually sponsor Advent of Code. That's why we get the little like Kotlin by JetBrains on the side here. We're of course super excited about this. So you've done some sporadic Advent of Code, so I assume like what was your feeling? Like day 3, typically I'm not too worried. How do you like generally going into it? How much time did you expect to spend on the puzzle?
Yeah, to be fair, like on the first 5 days, I don't expect to take more like some minutes, like getting a solution going. Maybe not the best, maybe not the prettiest, but it worked for me. Like actually, I felt day 3 was easier than the previous 2 days. Like some Regex magic here and there, and that was it. So yeah, I was not too worried this time around.
Okay, well let's see then how we're actually what the problem looks like, how we can solve it. So for that, as usual, the reading hat goes on. The right way forwards, there we go. And we'll do the favorite part, which is doing what nobody ever does, reading the description, reading documentation. And oh my god, I love it. I love seeing the little Santa hat emoji in the chat. That's amazing. So we're diving into day 3. Mull it over. Our computers are having issues, so I have no idea if we have any chief historians in stock. You're welcome to check the warehouse, though, says the mildly flustered shopkeeper at the North Pole Toboggan rental shop. The historians head out to take a look. The shopkeeper turns to you. Any chance you can see why our computers are having issues again? The computer appears to be trying to run a program, but its memory, your puzzle input, is corrupted. All of the instructions have been jumbled up. It seems like the goal of the program is to just multiply some numbers. It does that with instructions like mul x, y, where x and y are each 1 through 3-digit numbers. For instance, mul 4446 multiplies 44 by 46 to get a result of 2024. Similarly, mul 123 4 would multiply 123 by 4. However, because the program's memory has been corrupted, there are also many invalid characters that should be ignored, even if they look like part of a mul instruction. Sequences like mul 4*, mul 69 exclamation point, question mark 1234, or mul and then a whole bunch of spaces 24 do nothing. For example, consider the following section of corrupted memory. X mul 24% ampersand mul bracket opening 3,7 bracket closing exclamation at up caret do underscore not underscore mul. Okay, we're not doing the entire thing.
Oh man, you were so close.
All right, we'll finish it then. Opening parenthesis 5,5 closing parenthesis plus mul opening parenthesis 32,64 closing bracket, then opening parenthesis mul opening parenthesis 11,8 closing parenthesis mul opening parenthesis 8,5 closing parenthesis. There we go.
Yay!
Might as well.
Read it all, Seb.
Only the only part where probably I'll stop with reading out the entire things is when it comes to a puzzle that requires an ASCII encoded like labyrinth. I feel like at that point I get a pass. All right. Fine. Only the 4 highlighted sections are real mul instructions. Adding up the result of each instruction produces 161. which comes from 2 by 4 plus 5 by 5 plus 11 by 8 plus 8 by 5. Scan the corrupted memory for uncorrupted mole instructions. What do you get if you add up all of the results of the multiplications? And we can have a very brief look at the puzzle input here, which has a lot of wonderful words in it, and just has a whole bunch of text in it with great questions like where, what, why, when, how. All of which seem like they would be part of a perfectly regular computer program.
Of course.
All right. So, Nicole, what went through your head? How would you approach this? Walk us through things just briefly on a high level, and then we'll dive right into the actual tooling and the code.
That works. Well, first things first is that I did notice that we had an hyperlink at the beginning of this description. And that's something I really like of Advent of Code, is that if you click in there, you are routed to another Advent of Code problem that is related to this.
Oh,
there you go.
From 2020. Did I solve this
there
one?
You
I
go.
did. Look at that. So this should be an easy one, potentially.
Yeah, so the word lore is increasing on this Advent of Code thing. After doing that, of course, when I jump on seeing like, oh yeah, we have this long string, we need to identify the specific pattern. Of course, I just thought like regex. Yeah, that's the way. And that's what I did. I just basically went over it, just like checking where the small things were in, and I just added it all together.
Okay, so
Simple
let's see let's see what that looks like in code. Today we are going to be in Fleet. So did my connection close to you?
No, I can see you here. Do you want me to run something?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'll give you 2 seconds here, and then I think I might have to just recreate the session. This may have just been a timeout since I, as the host, didn't do something for a good 30 minutes, which I tend to do
probably.
So I'll just quickly restart this, and we'll get you a new link for a second.
That works.
It is a live show after all. It's always the great things.
Of course, it's not a live show if nothing breaks. So there you go.
That's right. So I'm going to post this one over in the studio chat. In StreamYard under the 3 people icon.
Nice. Let me join again. Oh, my fleet also closed. Interesting. Okay. Join in the session. Connecting. There we go.
Wonderful.
Now we're back.
Give me 2 more seconds. I am just going to briefly arrange some other windows. And great. With that, let's see. I'm just following you. So we are connected using Fleet's collaborative mode. It's still running on my machine, or everything you see is still on my machine. But Nicole gets to control it and have fun with it.
There we go. Cool. So, first things first, the format of the class is pretty straightforward. I use the template from Advent of Code. So I have the main function in here, which I am seeing that it doesn't scroll. I need to click. Okay. So basically here I am just like, part 2, part 1, and then the tests. Now for the actual validation for the first part, it's right here. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. I am just grabbing a regex, getting the regex, finding all the sections, and then I'm destructuring it and multiplying it. And all of that is being summed. Now, if you want to see the regex of this, it's right here. And something I did miss from IntelliJ, and I can give this piece of feedback, is that in IntelliJ, your regex constants highlight with the regex patterns in there, so it's easier to read. So that would be really good to have in Fleet as well. So here it is. I'm basically getting the multiplication. I'm creating 2 groups, and that's it. that's basically it. And if we run it, hope it still runs. There you go. We have our test. Ignore the part 2 for now. But there you go. Success.
Very nice. Hey, that's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
So again, like I don't think there's a lot of magical code here, and I think this now comments like I remember why I don't like regular expressions. Is make a whole lot more sense, right?
It does. It does. It does make a lot of sense. Like I know that Regex can be a bit scary, but just playing around with it and also like using that handy. I don't know if it's here actually. Oh no, it's not here.
I'm not sure. I think let me just check. If we call to regex, do we get the? Okay, I guess that's an IntelliJ only feature.
Yeah,
Bummer.
it's not there, right? Bummer. Well, if you're an IntelliJ, you get Regex validator in there, so you can also test out like the strings that you're trying out and if this regex makes sense or not. It's pretty nice. It also has a highlighter whenever it finds things in the test string you're sending. Yeah, there you go. A lot of feedback for each.
I'll let you in on a little secret, and for some reason this has been forever burned into my my workflow. I use Rubula.com, which is a regular expression editor originally conceived for Ruby. But the good part is that if you have some syntax of, I mean, regexes are generally pretty similar. They're sometimes a little different, but if I just add this in here, it just gives me the basic visualization. If I have like mul15, it does give me the actual match result, and it also shows me the match groups. And this just allows me to prototype things rather quickly. So if I have a very large number and I just want to change something, it's just one of the tools that, I don't know, I probably must have discovered 10 plus years ago, and I know that other folks love to use things like explain regular expression or something like that to prototype things. This has just been burned into my memory, so this is what I used this morning as well.
Nice. Yeah, you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, no, the capture groups here are actually, I think, a very smooth way of dealing with this. And they're actually one that I didn't quite come up with here. But this is just the fact that you can just take a match result. So a given individual match, which, it has a whole bunch of properties if we look at it. If we hit like dot, it has like the structured group values, the range, the actual text. It has all of these things. If you call destructured, we can just use this like destructuring syntax, and we can immediately get the individual elements out of it, which is just, I think that's a very elegant thing.
It is. And I actually had some alternatives. Are you still following me? No.
I am now following you again.
There you go. Can you see the alternatives? There you go. So I had some other alternatives also. Like whenever I finish this thing, I was like, yeah, but what would be the other alternative? Like being a bit more nice with the regex, and instead of like just grabbing like unnamed groups. Let me see if it updates. There you go. You can also add like tags to your groups and name them specifically, and then with those values you can just basically create them inside the groups, which is a list. So whenever you have like super lengthy regex, you can like be a bit cleaner with this instead of like just having magical regex in there. I did benchmark this, so we can do that after a bit, just to see like how quicker was this option versus the other ones. And of course, you can also like just get the groups directly and things like that. But I digress.
No, that's the entire point of the stream is going down weird rabbit holes. That's how you end up setting up a new build system on day one and like running strange benchmarks.
Yes, that's what I did.
I think you are doing a huge. This is actually a huge PSA here, because I feel like Johnny is not alone with this. You can name matches. This is like one of the big things. This kind of code you see all the time Like you'll just kind of do it positionally, and now you're kind of like struggling, right? Because you're starting to squint, and you're trying to like visually match. And first of all, you're trying to remember in this regex, for example, you have like potentially, well, you don't have it here, but of course the question is, the moment I have like parentheses surrounding the entire thing, now I have them stacked. I don't know if my group values now, if they go from outside to in, or what's happening.
Actually, that's an interesting question, because you do get like the first group is a whole regex, right? Like the group number 0 is the whole thing. So I don't know if like getting it's just like basically doing the same. I don't know. Shall we try it?
We could, but my point here, first of all, that I really want to make is that if you do want to give things names, it's possible by putting them in these wonderful little angle brackets, which is really cool, and it makes things a whole lot more like reasonable. So just having like question mark angle bracket and then the name, and then being able to access them via match.groups. So cool, so nice, so enjoyable.
It is. I agree. And that's what I was playing around, because the other one can be like, oh yeah, just magic numbers happening here. But if your regex has something specific, like in this case, we want these 2 numbers, you can just basically ensure you're getting the exact match right there. So there you go.
Awesome. I mean, we can still briefly go off the tangent if you'd like, if you wanna try and see what that first regex capture might look like, or the 0th regex capture might look like.
I mean, we could. We will need to like basically print our groups though, but let's do that. So this is our mole regex. Let's do it here. So I am just going to print line super match group values, and then for each. Can I do it for each here? Yes. Then let's just print line everything, whatever. It. This one will be basically printing the match for it. And yeah, let's see. Where am I doing this though? Nowhere. Let's just, whatever. I'm just commenting everything. Who cares? Cool. And I do need an input, so let's get this one. Cool. Okay, so let's run this thing.
All right. Again, I'm not even doing anything.
Yeah, see, it makes it at the beginning. Oh, you cannot see when I'm scrolling there. So it's on top of the exception. There, you got it. So those are the groups. So the first group is the mole 7, 12, 1, 7, 1. So
okay, so this is the entire match, right? That's group 0.
Match. Exactly. Then the first match is a group outside that you created. So it goes out in. And then the other matches are the ones inside. There you go.
Look at that. I hope that I'll never have to read code that relies on this behavior. we have just once again realized why naming inside of like these complex regexes might be quite useful. Yeah, naming matches is next level. Chat agrees. It's quite exciting. We can briefly compare this actually, if you'd like, to just kind of what I wrote for day 1. I don't think it's or for day 3. I don't think it's going to be particularly different here. We also have a regex. What I decided to do was, first of all, I figured we might as well just get those instructions out first. Because I was being a little suspicious. I thought maybe something else might come. Who knows? So the first step is we'll just drag them out. This essentially just gives us a list of the individual mole operations with their parentheses if they're valid. Why is this a flat map? Because we have multiple lines in our input, which is actually not obvious. They're long lines, and if you look at them in the browser, they truncate, or they soft wrap. But there are like 6 lines here. They're all part of the same contiguous program, which is also not necessarily a given. But then from there,
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing. I'll just do like for all of them, I'll do the sum, and for a given instruction, I realized that I like your solution much better. But I figured, since I just wanted to get to my goal, there is a function called remove surrounding, which is essentially the combination of remove prefix and remove suffix, which can just allow you
Nice.
to remove a little bit of things from the front of the string, a little bit of things from the back of the string. Typically, or you can also do this with like a single delimiter, which you might do if you have like things in like a single quote or something like that, and then it would just like remove them at the front and the back. But you can also just specify a prefix and a suffix. Then I'll split it up, and then I'm still doing some destructuring here as well. We've seen this before, and then we also just multiplied and printed. So nothing special here.
No, as I said, I felt this one was more straightforward than the previous 2 days. So yeah, the part I was being suspicious about was and I can see it also in your regex, was that I consider using the plus sign for the each of the numbers in there for the digits, but opted for go for also the range of 1 tree sizes, because I was suspicious because they clarified like they specified that in the text. And I was like, you're not getting me. If you have a 4 number in there, no.
I was also convinced. It's one of those tricky things where even in the description, the like 1 to 3 part, like there's a bunch of things that are like highlighted, like multiply some numbers, things should be ignored, do nothing. But this one is just kind of like, well, they each 1 to 3 digit numbers.
Yeah.
So it's just in there. Which is a little sneaky.
I think my solution there was non-number, like with more than 3 digits though, but I still specified. I was not going to let that go.
Exactly. Okay. I mean, hey, off to a good start. This was pretty smooth. Let's see if we've painted ourselves into the corner for part 2, which, that has definitely happened before. But so far, at least, it doesn't seem like a big algorithmic challenge on this one so far. So at least it's not, our complexity of our regex. Hopefully, that's gonna bite us. Let's see.
There you go.
We are headed into part 2. As you scan through the corrupted memory, you notice that some of the conditional statements are also still intact. You handle some of the uncorrupted conditional statements in the program, you might be able to get an even more accurate result. There are 2 new instructions you'll need to handle. The do instruction enables future mole instructions. The don't instruction disables future mole instructions. Only the most recent do or don't instruction applies. At the beginning of the program, mole instructions are enabled. For example, we're doing it again. X mole of 2,4 ampersand mole open bracket 3,7 close bracket exclamation point up caret don't underscore mole open parenthesis 5,5 plus mole open parenthesis 32,64 closing bracket open parenthesis mole open parenthesis 11,8 closing parenthesis undo open parenthesis close parenthesis question mark mole open parenthesis 8,5 closing paren. There we go.
There you go. Nice.
I am still questioning whether this is didactically has any worth from a teaching perspective, but it's a good time regardless.
There you go. It should help for something. We don't know what, but something.
I'm sure. So this corrupted memory is similar to the examples from before, but this time the mol 5.5 and mol 11.8 instructions are disabled because there is a don't instruction before them. So we got the don't, and that's why the mol 5.5 and the mol 11 and 8 are not even highlighted here. The other mol instructions function normally, including the one at the end that gets re-enabled by a do instruction. This time, the sum of the results is 48, which is 2 times 4 plus 8 times 5. Handle the new instructions. what do you get if you add up all of the results of the just enabled multiplications? Immediate thoughts?
More regex, yes.
More regexes. My initial thought was actually different. My initial thought was like, well, now that I have more than one instruction, I might as well try to like model a proper instruction set. I'll be honest, it wasn't the thought that crossed my mind in the morning. That's the thought that crossed my mind after breakfast. And after breakfast, another thing crossed my mind, which is this is actually a unique opportunity to try one of the features that are only available under a flag in Kotlin 2.1. That's right. There's a new language feature that can be used to help solve this. It's not necessary, but you can use it. So I'm quite excited to show off a little bit there.
Looking forward.
Up until then, though, let's see your solution.
Oh yes, that we should do that, right? Cool. So out of the bat, as I said, my first idea was like, let's just keep doing this. Like I'm already playing with Regex, let's just keep playing with Regex. So I actually cleaned up the code a little bit because I was going to be using the same one. So I just defining my constant Regex patterns over here, and I just basically concat them with an OR, so I could just catch each of them. And then once I have that, I just go over all of those matches, and depending on the match, I do different things. So if it is a don't, I have a flag that basically enables or disables this addition. If it is do, I enabled it, and if not, I basically check if it is enabled, and if so, I just add everything, and that's it. And to clean up the code, I just create a small extension function here. I am not super happy about this, but whatever is there. Basically, it's the same the structure over here, but over here.
This is a pretty cool move, I gotta say. I think this is the first time I've seen someone play the move of we'll string template ourselves a regex together, which is cool. Again, it works. Nothing to complain about here, but that is an interesting move. I think that the problem why I didn't even consider that this is an option is because for me, whenever like I specify a pattern on like a top level or a regex on a top level, like my immediate muscle memory is writing out like this part first. It's like I write like 2 regex, and then the moment I have a regex, I'm not so sure anymore how I might be able to combine those. Maybe there is a way, but especially if it's just ORs. But here, by taking like one step back, makes it a little easier here.
Yeah, I thought so too. It did, like, the regex part was pretty straightforward. I must admit that the part that made me like lose some time was like one, not noticing like the examples were different. I see someone in the chat having the same issue. It happened to me too. I had to like, get the other test input number 2 over here. Yeah, that happened to me. And the other thing was that multiple line thing, like in my part 1, and I was basically just passing all the input parts, like just like passing through this regex thing because I didn't care because I was not like doing anything but multiplying. But I was trying to do the same over here, and it didn't work because it was not sections. I had to pass the whole thing. So I called join string here, but I know it's not cleaner enough. So I actually created another function that just basically gets the input string as a string. And I use it in other parts. But yeah, that's it.
Oh, so here you're just reading the entire
string.
The entire string, yeah.
Exactly.
So this is I think this is one of the things. Luckily, in my solution, I kind of didn't paint myself into a corner here, or I didn't even encounter this, because the first thing I did was like, I'll just dump everything into like one big list of instructions. That could have also backfired on me. But the essential part here, I guess, to understand is that indeed, while these are multiple lines, the problem statement kind of specifies that all of it is one big contiguous program, like one big block of memory that happens to be corrupted. So if there's a do statement up here and there's a don't statement down here, then those affect each other, even if they are on different lines.
Exactly. And those were the things that made me lose time instead of like the logic, because I run and I was like, no, it's not working. Why? Turned out to be those things basically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was also sitting down with a friend this morning, and trying to debug his code, and it was a big struggle precisely because of this little trickiness that was in here. The fact that if you have two nested loops, or if you have an approach where you execute the entire function for each line, that you need to move, you need to keep track of whether things are enabled or not, globally, essentially, or across the entire program.
Yeah, but I was not going to do that, so I just basically crumpled the strings together and sent it that way. That worked.
So let me briefly also show off my solution for part 2. Again, I don't think it's anything particularly special. I feel quite good about it now, especially even though I have some enabled and like some accumulator where I actually generate some things. Because now that I've talked to the lead language designer yesterday, right, Michael Zarachinsky, and he wrote code that looked pretty similar to this, because it all keeps mutability to like a very small confined scope. That's fine. That's all good. So now I feel a lot more confident in writing this code. I feel a lot less like icky about it. So if you're at home or also watching here, make sure you check out that stream from yesterday. There's, again, a couple of nice little gems in here. The top part of this code stays exactly the same. Besides, we have now learned that we can concatenate an additional type of instruction in our regular expression. And of course, some people might just write do and don't, but for some reason, I decided, I was like, well, it's do potentially with the suffix nt and then the parentheses, which is yeah, I like. Johnny, I'm glad that you like the combination of do and don't. I also I felt very clever about that one.
You should. That's neat. It didn't occur to me, but now that I say it's like, of course.
Yeah, so this finding thing is the same, and then we very simply go through, or in a very straightforward manner, we just go through the instructions, and we open up a little when block, and if that instruction happens to be do, or if that we turn on the true flag. If it happens to be don't, we turn it off. And this is one of the reasons why I used a when without a subject. So I did not provide the instruction as a parameter here, because that means that on the left side I can use arbitrary Boolean expressions. So I can say when it's enabled and the instruction starts with mul, then I'll do whatever I did in the first part, which is just strip out the suffix and the prefix, split it up, and then multiply it, add it to the accumulator, and print or return that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Pretty nice.
By the way, there's a nice little comment here from Herbert, which is that file input read text trim reads the whole file, and I have a suspicion that if I were to go to your function here and I would click on your, is it just read input? It's read input as
it's
string.
The one below, but it's right there.
Read input as string. We can see that the implementation looks suspiciously the same. So it's happening here. It's just an additional function, a little helper function that completes the path here.
Yes. And that's precisely why I created it, because this is the one breaking it lines that was breaking my head, so I just didn't use that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna quickly start the benchmarks here in the background because, like you mentioned in advance, you said there's a couple of benchmarks that you also wrote, and you had a couple of different implementations that you tested against each other. Tell us
Yeah,
more.
I mean, it was just curiosity when I was doing the different regex things, like, you know, getting the labels and just getting the groups, or like, you know, using different regex, because I had the regex with the labels and without the labels. So I was asking like, hey, does these labels actually affect something? Do they make it slower? Do they not? Like which one is more efficient? Like, does it actually like just the structuring everything is faster? So I just created all of these methods and adding them in the benchmark here, and I'm basically just like checking all of them. And there are a combination of like, does it have labels? Does it not? Is it using the construct? Is it not? And that's basically what I run. And I have some in here, but let's wait for the benchmarks to run. And as a small nugget, on the top, I also checked for the join string just for the loss, because I knew that joining it again was going to be slower because you're splitting and joining. But I wanted to see how quick that was. Those are commented out though. But I do have the solution like here for mine. But yeah, that was it. Like, I was just curious, basically.
Very nice. Before we look at the results, I do want to mention here, I'm a big fan of the fact that you're also using the same best practices that I only learned 2 days ago from the Kotlin core lead from Sieva Tolstoy-Piatov, who was our guest on day 1, where we also looked at some benchmarks. And he mentioned to me that I should always make sure that I return my values from my benchmark functions, because otherwise they might just get jitted out by the compiler.
Yes.
So a little lesson learned here. Okay, yeah. We can just take a look at the results that you already got on your machine, and then we'll see if they vaguely match what we have on my machine. Who knows?
Let's see. And also, just a small note. Yes, I did go that deep of returning something from that stream. So, hey, learn something.
Hey,
okay,
awesome.
Cool. So the initial ones were basically for the reading of the strings, and you can see like read it directly from string is of course faster. The input is just basically the date tree, so it's not like a super lengthy file. So it's like, yeah, maybe there's not a lot of difference, but it's still something. The other one I checked was between using like no labels and and splitting it together, like, and splitting them directly. And the other one was like, yes, using labels, but then going to the group values and getting the names directly from there. So basically in this comparison, I'm comparing the structured with my implementation of getting the groups and accessing like the strings. Okay. So, yes, does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, cool. No, that does make sense. So, I'm sorry. I peeked ahead at the scores, and because I'm curious.
Yeah. Sorry. So as you can see here, like I was not expecting a change like this, because in theory, like the structuring inside is actually also accessing these group values and getting them directly from there. But I assume like these checks that I have to do, because in here you're not sure to get anything, like they're like optional. Those checks are probably slowing things down. So yeah, that you can see like there's a big change in here, like using those labels and just using the structuring directly.
Interesting. I feel like one of the things that maybe should be tested here is doing like the quote unquote optimistic path of just using like the bang operator or get value that would just throw an exception in the other path.
Exactly.
But in the call sites that we've seen, this is already quite this is quite a difference. I mean, to be fair, that's still a lot of operations to be made.
Yes. So it's not like as I said, it's not like a huge thing, but it's still noticeable, which is interesting. And the last one over here, I basically just grab all my cases. The one is the structure one. The second one is using group values with numbers directly. The other one is still using group values with numbers, but I am passing a regex with the labels. And the last one is the labels check that I did on the other one. Something that I did notice is that the numbers are pretty like similar. Like the first one is the same one as here. Like it does get more operations in here, but the other ones are pretty similar, regardless of what I do. And yeah, it's interesting because in here I am checking these things, but over here I am not. I am just basically just passing too long and hoping for the best.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but it's interesting how kind of two small groups evolve there. We can take a look here. Okay, the benchmarks have been running for 5 or so minutes, and there's still some going on. That's so it's good that you persisted some before this one. We'll keep this running in the background because I do like I said, I have one more implementation that I can actually show off, and that can show off something new in Kotlin, which is my slightly more abstracted away solution for this. Because when I need to, or when I try to approach this in a more maybe object-oriented manner, but just generally like in a more type-safe manner, and in a maybe more scalable manner, I love myself a good sealed hierarchy. So in this scenario, what I essentially did was like, okay, I have a bunch of different instructions, and they all fall under the same like sealed hierarchy, right? Just called instruction.
Mm-hmm.
I have do operations, which are fundamentally all the same, so I can just specify those as objects, or really I could specify them as data objects. Either way would be just fine. And then I have my my operation called mul, my multiplication operation, which has 2 integers, which also happens to be an instruction. So as is a very typical case, when I want to create an object from a given string that I want to parse, what I can do here as kind of like a little convenience, or maybe a little bit of like essentially making it look like I'm calling a constructor even though I'm calling a function, is just defining an uppercase named function that has the same name of the actual interface. So, and then of course it also returns an instance of that interface. And in here, I've moved a bunch of the code that we've already seen beforehand. Essentially now, instead of doing an operation directly, if the instruction happens to be do, I create a do object, or well, I return the do object, the one that exists. For don't, it's the exact same. And then for mul, I create a new mul object. And of course, now since I am using this in a return, this is now an expression. And the Kotlin compiler has no way of asserting that the only 3 things we'll ever see in our input string are do, don't, and something that starts with mul. So I also need an error branch or an else branch, which will just say this instruction is unknown. So from here, my implementation looks the following. Okay, and I just realized that I have the wrong mode enabled, but that's okay. That's only in the IDE. A lot of the code up here is still the same. This time, instead of doing the parsing ad hoc, I just bring it right into the instruction function, and I just create myself a list of instructions, which I think I can probably run, and it can show us, yep, we get a bunch of like mul objects, and we get some do and probably some don't in here as well. So now I have a much nicer representation to work with, because every time I do something, I can now just refer to the instructions. And for example, when I use a when expression, that is going to help me out quite a bit. So now on the left-hand side in my instructors, as I go through things, well, do still just changes the enabled, don't still changes the enabled. And then for mul, I can use a feature that was only introduced in Kotlin 2.1, and that is only supported via a flag, which is not picked up by my fleet instance here. I do apologize, but it still does work, which essentially just allows me to specify first the type check and then a guard condition. So this can be an arbitrary Boolean condition, but in our case here, this guard condition is just whether it's enabled or not. So it reads exactly the way that you would expect it to. This branch is hit if the instruction is mul and if enabled is true. So in that case, we can use we can just do the same operation. We can get ourselves the A and B out of our instruction and add it to the accumulator. And additionally, we also need to specify some sort of exhaustiveness. Since this is a conditional branch, there might still be a situation where you hit mul without the guard condition being true. So we also have a branch which is just is mul. So this one in theory is just for disabled, and that will just give us the encountered disabled instruction. So yes, this is pretty fresh. This is isn't it? It's pretty fresh. How do you like this?
I do wonder, like, it looks really cleaner, like out of the bat, like just getting the state checks, like object type checks, and then adding something extra. That's some scenarios I have found myself in regular work code, so this is great. I do wonder, like, you can achieve something similar by just grabbing like this if else inside the other side. So is this feature that it's coming into the language? Is this something that is going to stay there as a flag, or how do you envision this evolving?
So as a start right now, I can probably head on over to our build file here, and we can scroll through, and we can see here that one of the compiler options right now is I just pass free compiler args -x when guards, which are guard conditions in when statements or when expressions. The intent is, of course, to stabilize this down the line. And of course, it is one of the features, since it is currently behind a flag. If you feel that it adds benefit, if you feel that it adds unnecessary complexity, then we welcome that feedback also on like the actual discussion forum. So that does not just go out to you, Nicole. That goes out to everyone who's looking at the feature and maybe says, "Oh wow, this is this gets us like a little closer to some cozy pattern matching, perhaps." Or maybe you're saying like, "I'm perfectly fine with where we are." Those are they're valid opinions. Make sure you do share them.
Nice. It is nice. Thank you for showing off that.
Right? I'm always so excited when new things are coming out. I believe, by the way, make sure you're staying on top of that. I think we might have an additional video coming out on this in just a little bit on the Kotlin JetBrains channel. So make sure you are subscribed. I'm logged in as the channel here, so I can't. But make sure you subscribe and you hit that little bell icon as well. I'm not sure if we're still if we're still doing that as a species, but make sure you don't miss those parts. Yeah. So very briefly, let's see if the benchmarks are done. So we can just take a brief look here, but I'm looking at it and comparing it. I think this is the same kind of grouping that we saw prior. With these group values and labels, and with group values and labels, and just with labels being kind of grouped together. And so we kind of get the same overall structure here, which is
it is
which is fine. That's good. It's always good to test your hypothesis. The compiler doesn't consider the guard as a variable being read. That's where the error is coming from. Yeah, this is actually it's not even the compiler. This is just the IDE plugin. If you're opening this in K2 mode, then everything will work out just fine.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful. Okay. Nicole, how are we feeling? Are we because I think we did everything that is to do in here.
It is. That is everything we have. Yes.
So,
I don't know.
I mean, so we very briefly had this idea of maybe doing some extra stuff, but how do you feel?
I am not sure. Like, we are 1 hour in.
That is
Are we
very
going to
true.
Are we going to be able to do that extra thing? One of the extra things we were discussing.
You know what? I'm not super sure, but I feel like at the very least now we've alluded to it too much to not give people just a tiny little glimpse of something that will definitely come up in one of the future streams, because if you're depending on the circles of the social media that you frequent, you might be aware of the fact that something is brewing, and that something is called Compose Hot Reload. Let me actually just start that process for a second here. So what this is going to allow us is if we wanted to prototype some UI, which we're not going to spend too much time on today because we all deserve dinner as well, but we might be returning to this, or I can guarantee you we will be returning to this in the future. There is this compose hot reload thing, which means we can write some compose code, and if instead of click me we wanted it to say advent me, we can just save the file, and a couple of seconds later the interactive application that we have over here, which as you can see I can click that and things do happen, will just reload without making any kind of changes. So most likely in one of the upcoming streams, we will maybe build some like nice visualizations, or at least tinker with them and see what can be done there. I see a little bit of excitement in the chat, so I'm just gonna make maybe, I mean, we can just play around with this for maybe a couple of minutes. Maybe we throw on like a column, a button, a box, something like that. Nothing.
Button. Sure, we can add more text fields.
I'm just gonna.
Oh wait, we can actually just add a text instead.
That is very true.
Yeah, what are we doing? So, hello world, classic. Is it?
Look at that.
There you go.
Already reloaded.
Nice.
There it is. we can fix the typo within like a couple of seconds.
Oops.
And there it is again.
There you go. Nice. This is neat. Like I really appreciate having quick edits in here. So does it just show the bottom? Oh yeah, I need to do the click thingy. Whatever.
It's SP.
Oh man, I feel so slow without my my whole thing. Ah! Yes. What is happening here? I don't remember. Whatever. I am tired.
That's perfectly fine.
So I am just going to create an on-click in here, whatever. Just because I can. I'm not doing anything. And here, if I don't change my screen, thanks. Does it? Just like keep doing all the things. Yes, that's neat.
Look at that. And even with two people typing at the same time.
Changing this to a row.
Oh, look at that.
There you go.
My window is no longer adequately formatted. I gotta go real widescreen on this one.
It's fine, it's fine. We can go back to column. This is really neat. I really like this.
So yeah, I'm very much hoping that in one of the future streams we will be tinkering a little bit more with this, because it's a very interactive way of maybe building like visualizations out as well. So make sure, once again, this is my great little advertisement here. Make sure you head on over to the. Oh, look at this! We got blue text now. The text can even the text can still update while I'm not even like focused, because Nicole can just work in collaborative mode in my editor. So yeah, make sure you hit those notify me buttons for all the upcoming streams to make sure you don't miss any of them, especially the one that's happening slightly earlier, And that one is most likely going to have some visualizations in it as well. So really make sure you tune back in. And of course, make sure you head on over to our blog post, which has all the fun little things, including resources like the template. It has the instructions on how you can win some prizes, whether you want to compete or whether you want to take things slow and just learn something new. All of these options are possible. All right. I'll look at that. At this point, I think I just need to spam the Advent Me button. But of course, Nicole, thank you so much for joining today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was fun.
It was a really, really good time. So, I also want to say thank you to everybody at home who decided to tune in today as well and spend their evening with us. So now the only thing that's left is to wait, I guess, 10 hours and 54 minutes for the next challenge to unlock. And then we will see each other tomorrow at 6 p.m. again. Am I getting rickrolled right now? Amazing. What a great way to end it. We are never going to let you down. Kotlin is never going to let you down. And Advent of Code is never going to let you down. So I'll hope to see all of you tomorrow again with another exciting puzzle and another really, really wonderful guest. You should really not miss it. So until then, take care, everybody. And see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.